I'm gonna be on a friend's podcast, and I guess we're supposed to have like a main topic or something that we're working on, so we have something to talk about, and I have nothing. So I saw this video about toast, and my mind was blown. So I had to try it, but the problem is I only did that to one side of each piece of bread, and so it still tastes like burnt toast. What you couldn't see is that there were actually enough breadcrumbs to like clean up a spill, like it was sawdust or kitty litter or something. So that experiment was kind of a bust, or a crust. But now I'm invested and I have to do more bread experiments. But first, another bread joke. I see my grandpa walking down the street with a man wearing tight jeans and eating avocado toast. And I said,
"Hey Grandpa, who's this?"
Why, that's my hip replacement.
I once heard that people sent messages in invisible ink on bread by using baking soda and water, and then when you toast the bread, the ink shows up. Actually preventing the toast from toasting. I kind of thought it was supposed to be the other way around. I might have made the mixture too thick. I'm gonna try again. These experiments have all been total lies, so let's see if we can find some actual bread facts. Sandwiches account for 50% of bread consumption. Throughout history, a person's social status could be found by color of bread they ate. The darker the bread, the lower the social status. Okay, that's fucked up. This was because the white flours were more expensive and harder for millers to adulterate with other products. Heyo! Today, the trend has reversed and darker breads being more expensive and prized for their nutritional value. That's a fetish. Bread appears 360 times in the Bible. It appears 280 times in the Old Testament and 80 times in the New Testament. In 1943, the United States government banned sliced bread. It was deemed unnecessary use of materials and resources with the war effort going on. One woman wrote to the New York Times proclaiming how important sliced bread is and the morale and saneness of a household. Betty White is older than sliced bread. The inner part of the bread encased by the crust is called the crumb, hence why small bits of this part of the bread are called crumbs. I just want to know more. Let's look at the history. This type of bread that I can't pronounce in Switzerland says, in this part of the world, women went from being buried with their husbands in ancient times to cutting off a braid of their hair to throw into the grave, to later still baking a loaf of bread to be buried as a substitute. We were replaced by bread. Apparently, in the summer of medieval times, they had to use stored rye to make bread in the summer, and it was frequently infected with ergot, a fungus with LSD-like qualities, and it caused hallucinations. Sometimes death, but mostly hallucinations. Before rubber dildos came along, women had to improvise. The Greeks did this by baking dildos made entirely out of hard-baked bread. Cockle bread was bread baked by English women in the 17th century, which was supposed to act as a love charm or aphrodisiac. The dough was kneaded and pressed against the woman's vulva and then baked. The bread was then given to the object of the baker's affections. Okay, this is getting weird. I used to spend a lot of time on the sex Reddit because you saw some weird shit on there. I feel like we need to go back to the sex Reddit and look at the bread. I recently asked my fiance what her fantasies are, and she came out with this. She wants me to stick my dick in a bread roll so she can eat my penis like a hot dog. I am unable to orgasm unless my partner is wearing a goose mask while I throw tiny pieces of bread at her while furiously blowing into a duck call. And this guy experimented with pretty much every kind of fruit or anything ever to see which felt the most lifelike. He goes through everything. He has banana skins, grapefruit, oranges, but then he also gets to bread. He says it uses up too much lube. You have to keep adding it over and over. But just the feel of a warm loaf just penetrated is pretty realistic, but the downgrading time is quick. Funny story, I was once without lube for a small French roll, so I used yogurt. It worked out. And of course, I have a story for everything, so I wanted to tell bread stories too. Ironically, that day in my time hop, it came up about my first time trying Blue Apron, and I made all this food, and then it was so much it was overwhelming, so I gave up and made a peanut butter sandwich. When I was really young, me and my 3 other friends went to Pizza Hut every Friday, and one other girl and I thought it was the funniest thing to just take the uneaten breadsticks that we didn't finish and shove them in people's mailboxes. Like, when you're 12 years old, that's hilarious. Just imagine people's reactions. So I worked at McDonald's from when I was 14 through 23, 9 years. And there was one time when a guy ordered a quarter pounder and he wanted it without mayonnaise and without pickle. So I rang it up without pickle. He came back a little bit later and said it was still made the regular way. So I gave it back to our grill guy, who was genuinely just kind of not all there. He was kind of dumb. And so I'm like, hey, this was supposed to be without pickle. And the guy starts yelling and he's like,
supposed to be without pickle and mayonnaise.
And so the grill guy looks back at me and he's like, don't they already come without mayonnaise? And this just sent the customer into a frenzy. And he's like,
God damn it.
And he throws his old quarter pounder at me, and the bun actually shattered into like 1,000,000 pieces. I didn't even know that was a thing that happened. It was crazy. I'm trying to think of other McDonald's stories, because if I was there for so long, there has to be more than that, right? There has to. So I texted one of my old managers, junior managers. He was only like a year older than I was. And I asked him if he had any memories based around bread from McDonald's with no context. And he wrote back and said that one time he fucked his girlfriend on top of a stack of expired Big Mac buns. And by the time he answered, I had already gotten distracted doing other things, so I didn't respond right away. And when I look at my phone, I just have this whole list of like everywhere he's ever fucked. Like, it started with that, and then everywhere in McDonald's, and then just everywhere he's ever fucked. I was like, oh my God, I just asked about bread. So anyways, I figured since I just spent so much time learning about bread, and seriously, I got my coworker in on this. We looked up bread and Googled it for 4 or 5 hours at work. My job is hard. That I figured I should take a quiz. I will link it for you guys in the description. 2 other things that I wanted to include in this video, but I didn't really know where, are one, that there is actually a bread toast mural in Austin. I wanted to go take a picture with it for this video, but I didn't really have time because I had to make this video in like half a day. And then the other thing is a Vice article about somebody that took flavored lubricant, like grape flavored and stuff like that, and spread it on bread for taste tests and stuff. I'll link that too. I was gonna try to recreate this for you, just like I did with the blender and toast, but flavored lubricant actually makes me gag really fast. It's bad.
Crunchy.